Hi guys, welcome back to the Addicted Bookworm, where my addiction is all over the internet. On this video, I do book hauls, book reviews, digital and physical audiobooks, and so much more. So now it's time for another long video. This one is what I've read in the month of May, and I am up to scroll up here. I'm up to 100. Okay. 186 books. I did finish. Was it the was it the fantasy book that I started reading about 2 weeks ago. I thought I had enough time. I thought 2 weeks was going to be enough time to actually um, do that, but unfortunately it wasn't. And I did finish A Fatal Yarn. I finished A Fatal Yarn. I actually took that book to work because it was small, could fit into my backpack pretty easily. Um, and yeah. I actually, when we were really mega slow, I kind of took it out of the bag and I was reading a little bit of it. I didn't get in trouble for that. I didn't get in trouble because we essentially didn't have anything to do, and I wanted to look like I was doing something. So yeah, so I finished both those books. Very happy that I have. So yeah, yay. So here goes. So my so here's a review of the books that I read. So we're going to start at the bottom of the list, and what I did was at the beginning of the month, I made it a point to memorize what book I started, like what book popped up on my already read list, so that I would know where to start my video. So here goes. Alright. So the first one that I read for the month of May, or finished reading for the month of May, was the Horizine Book of Werewolf Stories. That was a collection of short horror stories featuring just werewolves. And I found that to be a really interesting read. Some of the stories weren't, really that good, and some of them were. But overall, I enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads. Then I bought the Warders, the Watchers, a spine-tingling gothic horror novel. I do plan on to get the second book it's a duology, so I'm going to get the second book. I also have the first book on my cart for Amazon. Then I read Murder in the Secret Garden by Ellery Adams, the third book in the series. I did enjoy that a lot. The characters are just getting more and more better, or a lot better, and definitely better than her other series. So then the next one was Secret Santa by Andrew Schaefer. This was my first physical horror book that I read last month. That one was about a woman who got employed upon the death of the owner of the publisher. Somebody doesn't like her, and there's this creature that is loose, and you definitely get a feeling that it takes place during a time when stuff like horror was really looked down upon, but it's also a statement that horror was hot. So that was what happened. And then the weird thing about it is this author who does get chosen to be the next Stephen King. He ends up dead, and she is not happy about that. But yeah, and it turns out that the creature has ties with like Nazi Germany. There was actually a photo of Hitler with a mandrake, and apparently he used this mandrake to like protect him. It's a really weird story. Then we got Death of a Prankster, which actually is book 6 and not book 5. It's book 5 and not book 6. Sorry. And it's basically about this guy that he likes to prank people, and one day the joke's on him. He ends up dead, and people don't believe that he's actually dead until they actually see his body. Yeah, it was okay. The Blade itself by Joe Abercrombie. That is a book that I was severely disappointed in. I believe I gave it 1 star on Goodreads. And the reason for it is that I just really could not get into the story. The story was very dull, boring. I don't know why he is a New York Times best-selling author, because his book does not mesh with me. But I guess. I just didn't like any of the characters. I didn't like any parts of the book. The book did not get any better with time. I just no. I actually had book 2 and 3 on Kindle Unlimited. When Kindle Unlimited was taken from me, I was not sorry to see the books go. Then we have Merit Badge Murder by Lindsay Langdry, another book that when I got to the end of it, I made it very clear to myself I was not going to spend the money or waste my money on the second book. The first book was just god-awful. Everything was outrageous. Everything was just off the wall. You couldn't believe anything in that story. So I was like, no, I'm not doing that. The Serpent and the Wolf by Rebecca Robinson. Robinson. I gave that 3 stars on Goodreads. That was just not... I'm guessing that it's just because I'm really getting sick and tired of romantasy. I'm getting so tired of romantasy. It's all about fucking and not about the storyline. That's just, no. That is that and Oathbringer are the 2 books that caused me to give up fantasy for the rest of the year. Quarter to Midnight, 15 Tales of Horror and Suspense by Tracy Coates. Another great book by Tracy Coates. I really like her storytelling, her style, how she puts a story together. She has characters that I'm actually interested in, and I just absolutely loved it. They are short stories, 15 of them in total, and I'm kind of thinking about doing the same thing with having a total of 15 stories. Not because I want to get the book done. I just feel like that maybe 16 stories a piece is a little bit too much. I need to work up to that amount. That would probably be a good idea. The Maid by Nina Prose. I got this book on Kindle because I had the second book as a physical edition. I did buy the second book as a digital edition, or I got the second book as a digital edition. The Maid is about a woman who works at this really high-class hotel. One of the guests ends up dead, and she is the prime suspect. However, she's determined to clear her name. This took me quite a while to finish, not because I didn't like the book. It is just that I had so much going on in my life, but I did manage to get it finished, and boy, I was glad I did. It was a really good book. Here's to My Sweet Satan, How the Occult Haunted Music, Movies, and Pop Culture from 1966 to 1980 by George Case. I really actually thought he was not going to cover the Satanic Panic, but he did, which I was very happy about. And I gotta warn people, I bought this book like 4.5 years ago. I finished it. Took me 4.5 years to finish it. Not because the book is not any good, but because with things like books that have like what do you want to call it? You have to be in a certain state of mind to read it. You just have to be in a certain state of mind. It is not a casual read by any stretch of the imagination. Then we got A Spell Booked by Joyce Loreen. I actually got a sample of this book years ago, and I never got a chance to actually get around to buying it. I actually bought it, and I'm really glad I did. It's about these witches. One of them dies, or maybe one of them is murdered, and this new girl shows up, and she's actually there to replace her, though she doesn't know it. I thought the book was really interesting. I actually have the sample for the second book, and I will be reading that one, and I will decide on the fourth if I intend to buy the book or get the book. Apparitions in the Rail Yard, a pulp horror novella by Samuel Brower. I don't know if this is his first book that he wrote, but it's a novella. It's about this guy who's like, he gets a job at the rail yard, and it has a very high turnover rate, apparently. There are things that happened at the rail yard during the Great Depression, and you had officers killing transients. And here's the thing: they don't reveal the race of the transients that get killed. So you can assume that it's white men shooting black men, or you can assume that's white men shooting white men, or just shooting anybody they want. But the fact that they got charged with murder and put in prison and probably executed for it probably tells me the transients were white. See here, Haunt, a pulp horror novel by the same author. This is a retelling. I wouldn't say a retelling of vampire folklore or mythology or whatever you want to call it, but this is from the Appalachian Mountains. A creature escapes after a mining accident. We would call this is a vampire, and while a lot of people die in the course of this book, there are a couple that are changed, and you can tell like they lose all their hair. They have these big pointed ears, big long fangs, or like serrated teeth. They can transmit through their saliva, so it's that kind of thing. Catching Fire by Susan Collins, second book in the Hunger Games trilogy. Absolutely enjoyed that book. 99% of it takes place, like 99% of it, or maybe I should say like 95% of it takes place in the arena. And then the last part of it is basically them escaping. Weird thing, the third tribute for District 12 does not compete at all in the games. I do not quite understand. Horror of the Night, Horrors of the Night, Most Scary Stories to Puzzle Your Mind. That actually did puzzle my mind, because I have no freaking clue what the heck I read. But, yeah, and I kind of was weirded out by the idea that there was 2 dead bodies in a house and the kid didn't care. Then we got Mad as a Hatter by Iris Lay. I am really considering getting the second book in that series. The first book was decent. It was a 3-star read. Yeah, I mean, it's about this woman. She comes back to her hometown to take over the family business, and this guy ends up dead after an altercation he had with her. And we find out there's a lot more going on with it than just a guy that didn't like a family. Then we have Hex Appeal by P.N. Elroyd. It's a collection of short stories that I believe it's urban fantasy. There might be some horror in it. I'm not exactly sure. But Jim Butcher is in it. Mike Green is in it, who did the Nightside books and the other one. But I think there might be some horror in there. I'm not exactly for certain. Then we have Dead 11 by Jimmy Gelano. That is his debut novel. This is about everybody's obsessed with like 1993. There's a reasoning behind it. Apparently 11 people, 10 kids, and an adult died, and there's this evil that's on the island, and this woman called Willow goes to Clifford Island to find out why her son wrote Clifford Island on the floor, and she ends up a lot worse than dead. So I told you guys that I was on a fantasy band thing. The Paper Magician actually is the only series that I will actually be getting the next book this week. I have to actually wait until I send my order out for those 50 books, because they will not let me they won't let me buy any more. So as soon as I send that out, I will get the Glass Magician. But the Paper Magician, I did a review of it a couple of days ago, like 2 days ago or 3 days ago, something like that, where I just gushed about how good I enjoyed this book. So, so for people that did not watch that review, it is about a woman in Victorian England who goes to continue her education with a master. He ends up getting his heart taken out, though he is still alive. In this world, once you bond to what you are supposed to practice, you practice that forever. I did enjoy it a lot. I found it to be highly entertaining. I found it to be everything that I'm missing in fantasy. So, so The Fatal Yarn was the next one, and that one was okay. I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads. It was a good book. It wasn't, the best in the world, but it was a good book. I enjoyed it a lot. The final book, I forgot the title of it. But anyways, it is a retelling, not retelling, but it's I think it's like Scandinavian or Swedish, or something like that. I forgot what part of the world it's from. So this is during the early years that Christianity has come to this country. It has a lot of converts. There's a lot of fire and brimstone that's being used, talk that's being used to get these people to abandon their old ways and everything. And so this girl, I cannot pronounce her name at all. Her sister gets taken, and she goes on a journey to try to rescue her essentially from death. And during the course of it, she encounters essentially the gods that people have been turning their back on, either out of fear or out of belief that they were worshiping demons. I gotta let people kind of know, kind of warn. I don't know the age of the girl. I think she might be 15, 16 years old. I don't know. But there is a scene in it where she has a sexual relation with a man who is much older than she is. But the weird thing about it is that, she's his wife. She is like the queen of, I believe like the Queen of Shadows or Queen of something. But what's kind of weird is that there's a scene in it that is historically inaccurate. And I really wish that authors would not do this. So, first of all, if anyone is an expert in the Bible, they will know that the term "thou shalt suffer a witch to live" came about because of the King James Version of the Bible. She uses it in the book to tie this girl, who is essentially immortal, to a stake, to burn her alive. That was not done until later Middle Ages. why in the world do authors do this? I don't understand why in the world authors do this. Why do you fill it with historically inaccurate things? I just don't understand. But if anyone has ever followed history and when people started being burned alive, you will realize that the burning of her, or the attempted burning of her, was hundreds of years too early. So yeah, yes, they weren't, you know, I'm sorry, just was historically inaccurate, and everything. So I gave it 2 stars just for the historical inaccuracy of it. Also, the thing about it is that even though the church had successfully converted a vast majority of the people to Christianity, there was still times that people relapsed and went back to their old ways, so they had to be reconverted. Apparently because your message is not for them at the time. But yeah, so I absolutely did not like the historical inaccuracy of that book. The story overall was so-so, not really that great. There was no errors in the book, which I was very happy about, but the story was like so-so. Not like The Paper Magician, which was, to me, an outstanding piece of literature. At least my own personal opinion. But yeah, I don't like that. I don't like stories that are historically inaccurate and just like not good. It's like or so-so. But definitely not something I would write home about. Not a book that I will cry if I give it away. So yeah. Alright, so that is my reviews of the books that I read. I read this last month. As everyone knows, I do have a very short list of a small pile of books that I will be reading. Now, I want to let people know that just because I showed you guys what books I was going to be reading this month doesn't mean that that is limited. I still have that one book by Simone St. James that I am on the verge of finishing, and I will be doing a review of that book probably on my horror channel. But I will be mentioning the book this coming Sunday when I do my reading wrap up. Alright, so I will see you guys around next time. Be well.